Hey, what's up everyone? It's Dubpace here. In a recent poll that I ran on my channel, over 200 people responded to what your comfort level is in Shoreline Resort, and over 50% of you answered that you're either not comfortable but would like to learn more about going to resort, or simply too scared to go to resort except for questing. Well, this video is for you. Welcome to my beginner's guide to Shoreline Resort. This is going to be a comprehensive video, so let's jump right into the meat of it. The resort, also known as the sanatorium, is the epicenter of the Shoreline map. If you're watching this video mid to late life, hardly anybody that is loading into Shoreline is going anywhere else. Everybody goes to the resort. This is where all of the loot is. There's LEDX, graphics cards, Tetris. This is where all the PvP is. For all intents and purposes, the resort literally is the Shoreline map. Random side note, but if you're a giant nerd like me and you love the lore behind Escape from Tarkov, the resort is based off of a real-life sanatorium that's located in Strelna, St. Petersburg, Russia. Check this out. It is almost exactly the same thing. So this is a pretty cool map. Returning back to my previous point, because the resort is the #1 primary location that players go on Shoreline, the spawn location that you randomly get when you load in is much more important on this map compared to other maps. Ultra quick before I forget, I did use 2 maps in the making of this video from the Wikipedia. I credited the original authors below and linked to those original maps. As I just mentioned, understanding the spawn that you get when you load in is a critical piece of information to running a successful resort run. Covering spawn points in a video is incredibly complex because there's several of them, but I'm going to do my best here. For both the East Wing and the West Wing, there are 3 primary spawns that I'm going to cover, and let's start with the East Wing because in my opinion, this is the best wing for getting the most loot. Surprisingly enough, the best spawn that you can get for East Wing is not actually marked on this 2D map on the wiki, so I just added it myself for this video. The second best spawn for the East Wing is in the top right corner of the map next to the South Fence Passage scav extract. And finally, the third best spawn that you can get to go to the East Wing is right next to the Rock Arch. If I covered every single spawn, it would be an hour-long video, but I did want to quickly just show highlighted on the map. I identify the spawns right next to Road to Customs, as well as the ones along the blue fence line on the coast. Those are mid-tier spawns. They're okay. You're probably going to be a little bit late. There's going to be people already in there, so be careful, exercise caution as you're approaching East Wing. And the worst spawns are the ones along the river to the east. These ones, you're going to be super duper late and there's going to be tons of people in between you and the resort. You'll likely encounter PvP outside. It is a cheeky trick if you want. If you get one of the crappy spawns, you could just go to the admin building first and then you could push whichever wing that you hear PvP going on to try to third party. That's one thing that I like to do to get back in the game if I started with a bad spawn. Now that we've covered the East Wing spawns, let's jump over to the West Wing spawns. There are 3, again, that I've identified as the primary spawns to get to West Wing first. So the first spawn that I'll cover is on the southwestern side of the map, next to what I call Scav Rock. It has the 2 green weapon crates right next to it, and typically a Scav spawns there. For this spawn, you run to the right of the rock and then just head towards the West Wing. The second spawn is right next to the ruined house, near the ruined house fence scav extract. This is the middle spawn, and again, it's the same thing. You're just going to haul straight towards the West Wing. And finally, the best spawn, in my opinion, although it's not proven, I'm pretty sure this is the one that gets there the fastest every time, is when you spawn right next to the cottages. You typically spawn right underneath this weird sort of abandoned house right next to the cottages, and then I run along the cottage fence line and then cut inward right away to head towards the West Wing. Again, I don't want to cover every single spawn, so I'm just going to talk about those 3 main spawns, but I'm going to highlight on the map map here. These are the B tier spawns or the mid tier spawns. They're okay. They're not the best. You're going to be a little bit behind everyone else. Just be aware that you are very likely not the first person into West. And then the worst spawn of all time here in red is the tunnel / ruined road spawn. This one is really bad. Sometimes when I get this, again, I just want to go to admin and then I'll try to third party PvP to try to get back into the fight. If I'm not being super brief and concise in this video, it's going to end up being an hour long, and none of you want to watch an hour long video. So instead of talking about which keys to bring right now, I'll talk about all of the keys that I use during the building breakdown, where I go more into depth with which rooms to loot, how to loot them, and what to look out for in terms of PvP. One quick note that I will say beforehand though, is that for every single run, I always bring an SJ6 stim. This is an investment into the loot that you might be getting because you are one of the first into the resort. If you're an ultra tryhard, or maybe your character skills are much lower, you're a low level account, you can also add in addition the
norepinephrine.
Anyways, this stim also increases your strength and max stamina as well, so you can use these two in combination to really get the turbo boost and reach the resort first. This is super important, guys. Make sure you bring SJ6. Let's kick off our building breakdown now, starting with the east wing. I'm going to be approaching from the helicopter side, which is the front main entrance. And while you're approaching, take note of this tree right here and how it obscures the windows to the second floor. Make sure that you glance at the windows of the stairwell as well as the first floor windows, because players typically camp here to try to pick you off if they reach the building first. As you enter, also be careful of the second floor balconies, as people sometimes jump from there, which I'll show in just a second. And upon entering, just shoulder peek to test if anybody is shooting at you from any of the angles. And for me, my first step is to go straight for the second floor. This is a little bit of a next level gamer thought, because people typically look at the first floor. From the second, you can use the windows and look and see maybe you beat somebody into the resort and you can pick them off while they're in the open. Take note of the tree that again is blocking the sight line from the helicopter. The hole that's right next to the key with tape room, Sanitar's room, this is also super useful. You can use this to pick off people that don't clear the second floor, aren't paying attention, and they get stuck in the unlocking animation. Let's assume the resort is clear so far, and I'll drop through the hole and unlock the key with tape room. Once inside, I head straight for the bathroom. Right on the floor, there are multiple LEDX spawns, and you see also an ophthalmoscope spawn, and look carefully in the shower as the same types of spawns can happen in there. After that, I head for the desk. There can be some loose meds on the floor. There's a computer, and just look around carefully. I find dollars, various things like gold chains on these locations, and don't forget about the suitcase, which can have some low-key great loot. As you move to 107, be careful and use this divider and look at the window right where I shot, as there's a pile of trash that players like to jump up on to pick off unsuspecting foes. Moving in, right on the table, you check quickly to see if a Tetris or graphics card spawn there. I look at the meds on the shelf. Then I start heading straight for the second floor at the end of the hall. Don't forget about, again, that spot where people jump up on the trash to try to pick you off. On the second floor, I like to shoulder peek, as sometimes people are waiting for you there. And if you're being really safe, I like to check third floor as well before heading down and unlocking 226. One quick note about 226, you could also get the 222 key, but personally, I prefer the 226 key because it has this pile of boxes and wood and trash to partially obscure your body. After entering, close the door behind you, check on these shelves for possible LEDX, as well as inside the drawer itself, reopen the door to get ready to leave, head to the next room, 222, check on this area for tech spawns. You can find graphics card and Tetris fairly frequently there, and then there's a food spawn on the nightstand, and from here you head straight down for 218. All right, I messed up. I can already hear some people typing in the comment section, Pace, you missed the box in 226. So we're gonna go back. I'm just gonna show you. This is like a mental block in my brain. I always forget it. Next to the graphics card spawn, Tetris spawn on the tables in 222. Right behind that, in the beginning of the bathroom, there's a box. And in the box spawns rare items like vases, lions, stuff like that. So don't forget to check the box like me. Once in 218, you run through to the adjoining room via the balcony. Right on the bloodstain, there is a possible red card spawn, so always check this. And one note about this hallway is that I always run in between where all of these objects on the ground are, just in case if someone starts shooting at you, you have an opportunity to prone and save yourself. One quick side note as we now move to the 3rd floor. The windows on the 3rd floor have a beautiful, unobstructed view of everything on the fence line. So if you hear anybody outside or you know somebody's outside, you can use these 3rd floor windows to your advantage. However, for the sake of this video, let's assume there's nobody here. The next room that you'll hit is 328. You could also get the storeroom key and connect through there, but personally I prefer just getting the 328 key. Right on the desk, there's possible graphics card Tetris spawns, there's a computer, and some decent weapons parts on the nightstand, as well as a duffel bag. From here, you can absolutely skip this room if you want, but I do like to check the marked room. Just look in the pig's ears for a gold chain. You could search the pig itself, and then on the circle next to the wall, I've heard of possible Bitcoin spawns, but I've never seen it personally happen. I do include the 316 key. A lot of people skip this, but before you loot 316, run through the connector and clear this entire area before you touch 316. I look in the stairwell and I head all the way over towards the opposite stairwell, the spiral stairs, and just make sure all those corners, there's no one lurking ready to get you. Once I'm sure that everything's clear, I will typically hit 310 next. On this table, there can be Bitcoin, clocks, all sorts of different rare items, and the opposite table has some decent rare items as well. Next, after that, I'll hit 313. I hate this room. I never get anything good, but on top of this box, there's a possible LEDX spawn. I'm telling you, I've never seen it though. And then don't forget about 316. Run back through connector and then go towards 316. Now you know everything's clear. It's safe to go in here. And this is the #1 most overlooked room, in my opinion. It's got very high tier weapon part spawns, and it usually adds anywhere between 100,000 to 400,000 rubles onto my run, especially if you add the weapon crates in as well. After you loot 3016, just head back where you were just clearing across the trash on the 3rd floor and you'll find 306. 306, I personally always loot. It's great just for the computers. As you know, computer parts are worth a ton right now, and there's always that ultra rare chance that you could get a graphics card. After 316 is done, hop back across the trash and head to the 2nd floor. This is a room you might want to skip. It's very dangerous. People can see all the way across Skybridge and might be able to get you. You can get the 206 key to use a little bit of this rubble as cover, but I have personally the 205 key, so I have to jump across it. And then once inside, I really don't loot much except for this one box where you can find rare loot like clocks and lions, that sort of stuff. Then you're actually done with East Wing and it's likely time to run to admin. Just one small note about connecting to admin. The East Wing side is where the admin computer room is, which we'll cover in just a second. But people love to lurk in that computer room, waiting for people to cross from East Wing, and they can blast you from the outside, or if you're running under the covered part, they'll jump through the hole and blast you right when you get near the hole. So just be on high alert, especially from that 2nd floor computer room as you're connecting. As we just covered East Wing, I'd like to cover West Wing next for the building breakdown, but one quick note about moving between the East and West Wing is to never go using the Sky Bridge. The direct Sky Bridge brings you from the 2nd floor of the East Wing to the West Wing, but it has glass windows on both sides and you can get shredded from outside. And in particular, people from the admin building can sit waiting for you to start to cross and then they'll shred you from admin. One quick tip is if you are going to ignore all of this advice and you are going to cross on the Sky Bridge, be ready to dive behind the sandbags in the middle of the Sky Bridge if you want to protect your life, but you need to figure out a way to get out of there before they start to grenade you. If you do want to cross between east and west or vice versa without using the sky bridge, I suggest going to the first floor, shoot out the window, run outside, and this is a perfect opportunity to check right in the front seat for the blue key card spawn in the ambulance. Then follow the same thing, shoot out the window, and boom, you're in the opposite wing. That is actually much safer than going sky bridge, believe it or not. Moving now to the west wing, I'm approaching from the west side where there's a hole in the fence, and this is the most typical way to open West Wing. Just like the East Wing, make sure you watch the windows, check your left as well as you're going in, and we're going to assume that we're the first ones here. This is my normal route when I'm the first one here. I go straight for the second floor, ignore the first floor, and just bolt right away towards the other side. Jumping over, you always hit the barbed wire. Don't worry about that. As soon as I get on the other side of the barbed wire, I go to the third floor. And the reason I'm doing this is I'm going straight for 301 West. 301 West has the highest tier loot, and this is where hatchet runners rush right away. As you approach 301, take a look at the opposite side roof to make sure nobody's camping up there, and just go straight for the unlock. Upon entering, check on top of the 2 water jugs for possible LEDX. Check carefully in and under the carpet for Tetris and graphics cards. These 2 spots on the corners of the desk are separate LEDX spawns. There's 2 computers, a big green weapons box, and then another med spawn on the bed, which I believe can also spawn LEDX. From 301, we're going to drop through the hole, which is risky, down to the second floor. This is where you need to start being paranoid. And you could also check on the third floor if you want to see if the rock passage extract is open. You will see green smoke if it's open. You'll see here that you don't see it, so you know that it's not, but it's a nice time to check. After dropping down, I typically loot 205 next. Just a quick note, you could get the key for 203, but I prefer 205 because it blocks with this drawer from getting shot from Skybridge. Upon entering, you can check on each of the tables in the first room, run onto the second room, and check carefully next to the bed on that newspaper for a possible red card spawn, and you're done looting this room. After looting 205, we're going to head back and retrace our steps to loot where we came from on the second floor. There's a cute trick. You can stand on top of this garbage and you can see all the way down the hallway on the second floor. This is super useful. I've picked off a few people using this. Hop over the barbed wire and we're going to hit 216. This is a really good room, just a quick loot. Right on the left, there's possible graphics card Tetris spawn. On the green crates, there's some med spawns, including on the table next to it. Where this Mayo is, I found moonshine, so look carefully there. And then the box next to that, there can be high tier ammo, so take a look. After that, I always loot the right-hand side. This is the closest door, 218, right by the boxes. You could get the 221 key, but I prefer 218 because, again, it blocks me when I'm hiding behind it from the cardboard, and we know that the area we just came from, we cleared. Upon entering, there are some food spawns on the table to the right. In the bathroom, check for the rare RSAS spawn on top of the boxes. On the blue jug, there's a red keycard spawn, so always check that. And then there's some loose med spawns in these boxes in the room next door that's connected via the balcony. Always worth checking both rooms. After this, we head down the hall to loot the last room on the second floor. That's 220. After entering 220, look on the left on the box and on the floor for possible med spawns. And then head to the other corner of the room, right where this chainlet is, can spawn Bitcoin, GP coin, all sorts of rare stuff, Veritas pick, Lion. It's always worth checking this area. And that does it for the loot on the second floor. At this point, I would say most players would head to the first floor to loot the 2 blue keycard spawns down there. But before doing that, I actually do loot this safe up on the third floor. It's up to you whether or not you want to. It's in 321 and you'll see the path here. But for me, I include all 3 of the safe keys, including the 2 admin safe keys, because personally, if I have the choice to loot 3 safes or not, I would rather loot 3 safes. You can get crazy loot like lions out of there. You never know what amazing loot you might get out of a safe, but sometimes they're a dud and they take up a spot in your sick case. So it's totally up to you whether or not you want to do that. Another side note, the third floor window, another great place to pick off players that are entering from the western side. So keep that in your toolbox. After looting the second and third floors, it's time to head to the first floor and loot the 2 blue keycard spawns down here. And then 104 is your next location to loot. This is a very quick loot. You're just looking for that blue keycard spawn on the desk. I actually thought I found it here, but it's just some dollars hiding underneath the folders. And you could get some loose med spawns on the shelves. I've heard there's possible LEDX. I've personally never seen it. It must be ultra rare. And then you're going to head down the hall for the final room on the first floor, which is 112. And in 112, it's another possible blue keycard spawn that we're really hunting for. And that's going to be right when you go in on the right on the TV stand, you would see it. Keep in mind, the room also has 2 duffel bags and a table that can spawn sugar, so it's definitely worth at least looking at the food spawns. After looting 112, start heading towards the admin building, but before stopping off, there is a utility closet which you can see spawn some amazing stuff, including fuel, all sorts of gunpowder. I found a beard oil here. Always check this utility closet. It's totally worth it. Then go to the spiral stairs, head all the way down to the basement, and just really quick check in the locker for the possible red key card spawn. And that's it for the West Wing loot. At this point, I always head straight for the admin building to continue looting and to try to beat the person that went to the East Wing to the admin building to give me an advantage. One ultra quick note, it's not important at all, but if you want to transfer to admin, what some people do is actually loot 301 West last and then jump off the balcony onto the connector, and then you fall down, and then it's a very fast, easy way to get into the admin building. I personally don't like doing this, but I figured I'd show you just so you've got that trick in your tool belt. And I end all of my Shoreline Resort runs by looting the admin building. This is after entering in the western side. Down in the basement, there's a good spawn, but I actually loot that last, unlike most people. You head all the way upstairs, and this is the important side. You can tell if it has been looted if the middle door is open or not. You could tell this has been unlooted because it's closed. Upon entering the furthest room, check on the shelves on the left for possible GPU/Tetris. Check all around carefully. There is a computer as well. And right under that ashtray, there's a red keycard spawn. Be careful in this room. The rock that I'm pointing at here, there are people that will climb up that rock and lay down just for the sole purpose of blasting you the second you slow down to try to touch and loot something, especially if you try to loot that computer. So typically I skip it. Moving into the next room, the one with the closed door, on the couch, there's possible electronic spawns, including on the desk. There is one of the safes here, but before unlocking this, take a look around out the windows to make sure no one's waiting to blast you. There are several bushes that are pretty nice to hide in that you could really trick someone if they take the time. And don't forget about, there's also another computer in that room as well. In the room next to that, I just checked quickly on the desk where I'm flashing my flashlight for the 216 keycard spawn. And then the room next to that is just a computer room. Pointing at them now, there are 5 different computers within this room. And there's also the hole where I mentioned before, you could blast someone that's coming over from the East Wing. In the band room, I never loot in here personally, but I'll mention it. There's a duffel bag, and then on one of the front chairs that I was aiming at there is a keycard spawn. Then you will move to the opposite side that we just looted for the other safe. Again, same drill. Check the bushes, make sure there's no one lurking before you get locked into the unlocking animation. And if you want, like I mentioned before, you can skip the saves altogether. At this point, it's time to head into the basement of the admin building and check this cheeky spot. I'm telling you, it's a matter of time before a camper gets you there. And then on this cart, there's a possible LEDX spawn, which is super rare, but more commonly, I've actually found moonshine, which is worth a ton right now, 350k plus rubles. And that's it. You're done with West Wing, East Wing, and admin. You are a Shoreline Resort expert now. Now that we're nearing the end of the video, I did want to ask, did I get something wrong? Do you have an additional tip that I didn't cover? Please consider jumping into the comment section below and join the discussion. Help the community out. Otherwise, stay tuned for more great Escape from Tarkov content coming soon right on this channel. And of course, please consider subscribing to make sure you don't miss it. Stay safe out there, and I'll catch you soon.